people takes years to master and feels like a lot of default world work. But running a theme camp isn't a one-person job. Today we're going to cover a few areas around building a team with deep bench strength, techniques for keeping the team motivated and relaxed so that they want to return year after year, and how to handle difficult situations, including when a core team member just isn't working out. My name is Josh, and I'm co-lead with Fresh Squeezed. We've been offering ice-cold lemonade and interactive group painting since 2006. We are lucky to have 4 great panelists with a diverse set of camps and backgrounds who are all willing to share their unique perspective in this area. First, let me introduce Dazzle. Dazzle came to Burning Man in 2006 and jumped right in to lead a camp of 35, which included 2 art cars and an art installation. She has played many roles at the event, including founding 2 organizations, Wheels on Meals and Stair Ramps to Heaven. Devi, to her left, first came to Burning Man in 2012 and ultimately ended up joining Zhang to co-lead Suspended Animation. Their camp is capped at 35 and everyone must participate the entire time from build to strike. They operate as a benevolent dictatorship and due to the nature of their camp, have a very detailed and serious set of participation requirements. Originally from South Africa, Nikki was aware of Burning Man as she had heard it had ties to Africa Burn. When she relocated to the United States in 2014, she made plans to attend the very next year. Just 3 short years later, she co-leads 747 Big Imagination with one of the most outrageous installations on the playa. After burning out from working 4 chef jobs in 2014, Uncle Awesome took a sabbatical to do some backpacking and got connected with co-lead of Camp Corny to help on the kitchen team that year. And just a couple of years later, he is now co-lead of that camp. To get us started, I'm going to ask a few moderated questions in each of our topic areas, and then we'll give plenty of time so you can dig in with your own burning questions. For those of you on the live stream, please send in your messages and we'll be able to read them locally. But before we get started with questions, I'd like each of you to spend 3 to 4 minutes giving a little bit more of your Burning Man story, just so people have direct context from you.
Okay, so, wow, is that too loud? Okay, I'm Lisa Morgan. I also go by Dazzle, and that's D-A-Z-Z-L-E exclamation point, and I'm really picky about punctuation. So I do a couple of things, as Josh talked about. One of them is Wheels on Meals, where I drive around and provide hot meals to the people that are building art out on Playa. I'm in my year 7 or 8, and most of my team has been there 3 or 4 years, so I've got a lot of depth. People come back year after year. They really love that. I also do Stair Ramps to Heaven, which is a series of ramps to help the mobility challenged get on and off art cars, and I had 7 of those built last year. And additionally, I built an art project for the Playa, and I did all 3 at the same time last year, which is incredibly stupid, but fun. And most of my volunteers worked on multiple projects at the same time, and almost everybody is coming back to work with me again. So I've got a pretty good sense of how to get people to volunteer and to come back and come back and come back and do more and more each year. So I'm here to help you any way that I can.
I'm Debbie, or Power Slouch on Playa. So I help co-lead Suspended Animation with 2 other folks, Zing and Scout, and essentially, we do a lot of really fun things on Playa. It gets really exciting for everybody. We have a really great mission. We just want people to have a good time. We want them to experience something new, and it feels very life-changing for a lot of people. Started my burning experience as just a burner with Suspended Animation, and I decided to come back as a co-lead eventually. But we have a lot of processes in that basically just keep people wanting to come back. We do really diligent interviewing processes, and we have a 3-part interview that requires people to, kind of tell us a lot about themselves and get to know our camp better. So we figure out whether or not they're going to be a good fit for our camp, and they can figure out whether or not they want to camp with us, which is really important. And those people tend to want to come back year after year. So.
Hey, I'm Nikki, or Mistress Nikki on Playa. You can get creative with your punctuation for me, so I'm agnostic on that. I'm with Big Imagination. We have a huge project. We're a working camp. We joke that we go to Working Man. Everyone works regardless of what dues you pay, and we have a sliding scale dues, which each camp member chooses what they're going to pay, so it's an opt-in. People keep coming back because of the amazing work that we're able to do. So the plane is really a platform for us to be able to do our emotional baggage check. And every year we see about 10,000 people come through, check their emotional baggage. And that is one of our primary offerings or gifts to people on Playa. And we have a similarly rigorous interview process. So I interview every single person who joins our camp over a telephone call, because there's so much work involved. So that's a bit about us.
Hello, I'm Uncle Awesome, an uncle to the planet, a father to one, hype man to the planet as well. Just trying to keep the dream alive. We're with Camp Corny. We're at 430 and D. We throw 3 big daytime parties where people dive into a pile of stuffed animals and find their spirit animal, and then hit the bar, So it's been amazing. I came in working in the kitchen and just said yes to responsibility, and then moved up and up and up with just taking on responsibility, and that's kind of how our camp is. If you're willing to take on responsibility, it's given to you, and so that opportunity kind of lets people work themselves out of camp. If they're not willing to work, the work's there, and the responsibility's there. And so by people stepping forward and taking on that responsibility, it's almost like they're vying themselves into camp or out of camp, We have a lot of stuff to do, and so it is keeping smiles on people's faces is a lot of work, but it's it's ice cold watermelon, positivity, focus, organization. I think organization is a big one when people don't know what to do, and then there's animosity about people not doing things. Well, we got clipboards with, everything perfectly, to the amount of what needs to be there. So there's always something for someone to do, and I feel like that organization really helps people stick around, so.
Great. So if you're trying to recruit new people to help join the kind of core team and leadership of a camp, but they haven't been to Burning Man before, and you're not starting with people that you know already, how do you find them? Where do you look? Maybe I'll start with Nikki on that one.
Well, I was recruited at 3 a.m. on Thursday of Burn Week, lying in the middle of the desert. So that's how I was recruited. But I think if you're trying to recruit people who haven't been to Burning Man before, we tend not to do that for leadership teams. They're generally people who've camped with us and sort of come up through the ranks. And we use a pretty organic process. So people will take on a role 1 year, and you really see that they become outstanding at that role. And the more responsibility you give them, the more they embrace that and run with that. And then other individuals, you'll throw them the ball and they'll kind of drop it, and you can see they're not interested in that. So we try to raise camp members up through the ranks and also give them an opportunity to explore new types of work within the camp. So maybe if you have a desk job, the opportunity to do something more manual labor orientated and really own that. Or if you have something that involves more manual labor, maybe dive into operations or marketing or something like that.
Debbie, you want to take a shot?
So a lot of how we acquire new camp members is through referrals. A lot of our campmates who have been with us before and maybe can or can't go again will send their friends to us because they're like, I had such an amazing time, and this was such a family, and everything was so close, and everybody just has a great time. It's fantastic. And so they send people and they get referred to our info address, and we set up interviews with them. Other ways that we've been able to recruit new people is through, sometimes people will just email us. They'll check out our website and say, oh, that sounds interesting. Or we will put out the call if we're like, we're getting a little bit later in the year, we need to fill up our roster. We only take 35 people. That's the maximum we will ever take. So if we need to fill up our roster a little bit, we'll put out the call and say, hey, who wants to join Suspend Animation at Burning Man? These are the things that you need to do. Go check out our website, read our policies, and if you are prepared to cover all of those things and you are okay with working really hard, because 35 people is not very many for a production like we put on. So yeah, if you're willing to work and have a good time while you're doing it, then we kind of set that up and go through our recruiting process.
Uncle Awesome?
Yeah, we have like a sponsorship program pretty much. Like we wouldn't just, we have. It's one of those things that's Burning Man. We never do that, but we do it. You know what I mean? We, over the span of Burn, we give out like 3,000 party polls, and that has a pretty big reach. And so emails and things like that. We have hosted internationally with people that we don't know, and most of that is just like multiple Skypes with the person to figure out who they are, and then you take a risk. You take that risk, and sometimes you do, but most of the time it's like, well, I want my friend to come, and you're like, badass. We have work parties in Portland, like 3 leading up to Burn, where we practice setting up our star shade, we demoop all of our stuffed animals, and it's like, if you can't come and help out at the work party and party with us, then that's the first one, is just to get to know someone. And then whoever you've brought, if they're not showing up to their shift, that responsibility falls on their sponsor, because there's still work to be done, so.
Great. How about Dazzle?
So I take an entirely different approach to everything. I go and cast a huge net. Last year I had about 80, 90 people in my various projects working for me, and a lot of them I'd never met until we got to the playa. And I went to ePlaya, I went on regional groups, I went on Facebook, I posted to the groups that I'm already part of, and I'm like, here's this project and here's what I'm doing. So that was step one. And then people would write and they go, oh, I want to get in on this, I want to do that. A lot of times what they really want is an early arrival pass and an access to get a ticket. We all know how that goes. So the first thing I usually did was say, here's a little summary document of what the project is and what you need to do, so read on this and let me know. But what I do is at the very end of the document, it says, if you have read this fully, text me the words, whatever in the heck, name of the project. So that's my first layer at finding out, do they actually follow instructions? If they don't get back to me with that word, then I'm like, scratch next. And they're like, oh, I really want to be a part of this project. I'm like, did you read that thing? Oh, yeah. No, next. So I start with a pretty wide net of people that I don't know and have never met, and I have a whole process of how to weed down from there, which I think we'll get to in future things. But in terms of looking for where do you find people if you're starting from scratch, throw it everywhere. Send out something on every regional thing. But be prepared to find out a way to start whittling them down real quick. Traps and balances.
Great. So have you discovered any great questions that that help standardize, like who the people are that do in your many years of selecting people?
Oh, yes, I have. So I'm a big fan of Google Docs, and you can go on Google Docs and make those little quizzes, or you can use SurveyMonkey or whatever it is. Yep. You guys all use those too? Love it. So what I find you need to do, there's 3 things, and I used to also be a hiring manager, and there was 3 things, which do they able, willing, and manageable? Are the people that you want to bring into your camp or onto your project able to do what it is you need them to do? Are they actually willing to do it? And are they manageable? Are they capable? Will they? So create those questions. And here's a little trick. A lot of times when you have questions and answers, so let's say the one thing you really need people to do is to be on time to your build. Maybe being on time is a big issue. Or can you be outside in the heat for 4 hours without taking a break? The things that we know as builders you need to do. So you need to figure out what those things are. Put together a question, but only give them a range of 4. If you give people 5, like I'm always on time, I'm sometimes maybe, okay, I'm late, okay, I'm the last person there, but I bring donuts, they'll go for 3 a lot of the times, and you don't make them force them to answer one way or the other. So give them a range of 4 between I'm always on time and I'm the last guy there, but I bring donuts or whatever it is. And then you force them to make some decisions about where they really fall in that range. So figure out what your questions are. Create your survey giving them only 4 choices so they have to go one way or the other. But the other thing I find that's part of a bit of an educational thing, and I mentioned this, like I'm the last one to show up, but I always bring donuts, starts to put into people's heads, oh, gee, I may not be the best at that, but there's a way to spin it so it's not necessarily a bad thing. And I can start thinking, maybe I'm not the best at being on time, but I'm better at other things. And so that kind of begins that discussion. So yeah, I whittle down a lot.
Yeah, so I realized I answered the last question with complete lies. So we have a similar process where people, not just in leadership, but new camp members have to read through our website, and we have a series of questions with check boxes. And people go through and they just check every box, but actually one of the boxes you're not supposed to check. So it gives us some insight into when I get emails saying, the website doesn't work. I'm like, no, you don't work. For us. Thank you for coming. So, and we do a referral process as well. So really we want to know if people understand what's required as part of joining our camp. Everyone participates and everyone contributes what they can. So you don't get to pay dues over working shifts. Everyone works shifts, everyone pays dues. And then within that, you use the means that you have to contribute to the camp. So that's sort of what we look at. And then I do a follow-up call, as I mentioned, to make sure people actually understand what's required of them. And we have a cultural team who sort of do some work helping people acclimatize to what Burning Man might be like. So we have an amazing couple who get to know the new camp members, even if you're coming in with a friend who's responsible for you. So you understand, what the 10 principles are, and you have a good idea about decommodification, gifting, and what participation in our camp looks like. And then if you fail to meet those requirements, which actually doesn't happen very regularly, you and your representative or sponsor who are part of the camp are no longer invited back.
We have a survey as well. It's pretty straightforward, you know what I mean? But in that survey, you get to choose what seems like a direction you'd like to go in camp, because we do 3 square meals for our campers as well. So I'm overseeing the kitchen food, but at 9, 1, and 8, we feed everyone. But then with that, there's lots of kitchen shifts, water shifts, all these other things, compost. And so in your survey, you get to jot down, out of those things, rate which would be your number 1 guess, or what you would want to do. And then we filter out the teams from there, and we have a team lead for all of those, kind of pushing people in directions that they would naturally succeed in, so they're not just going to compost camp but didn't want to. You know what I mean? But if you have to go to compost camp, then you just do. You know what I mean? It is still a disguised democracy as a dictatorship, right? It's like your vote counts, but it doesn't, You know what I mean? So, yeah. I don't know if that's the right answer.
It's the right answer.
Do you have anything to add on that, or should I start a new question?
We don't have a survey. We are the survey. So, because all 3 of the imperators of our camp survey people, we interview them all. We're looking for people that are good eggs. That's what we say. You're a good egg. You're a good person. You're going to get along with everybody in our camp. you're going to participate because you feel accountable. We basically, like, our idea is that, like, people don't leave a camp, they leave their boss, right? It's just like management. Like, you're not going to leave your job because you love your job, you like what you do, right? You're going to leave your manager, you're going to leave your boss. So we're kind of the same way. We're very personable. Like, we're in there with them, in the trenches. We're doing the work too. And so essentially we don't want people to fill out paperwork. We'll have you read their website. We consistently and very rigorously go over our policies and what it means to be a burner. And we love virgins. Like, virgin burners are great because they're always so excited. They'll be like, oh, what is that? Oh, what is that? And that brings it back to us, because then we can look at things and be like, oh, what is that? You're right. That's so cool. But that's what keeps people participating, is your management of your people. And so our approach to it is keep it small, keep it family, and do this. You be the survey. You be the person that figures out those things about those people and digs deeper into those questions. It's manageable for us because we're only 35. You know, it's not going to work for everybody, but yeah.
Well, maybe I'm going to segue into a different topic. Which is more important in a theme camp management, diversity or like-mindedness?
Diversity. I don't want a bunch of people who think like me. I don't want a bunch of people who are just going to be lemmings. I want to look at my crew and be like, holy shit, you have good ideas. I want to be surrounded by people who are smarter than me, right? More charismatic than me, because I'm not. I want people who are going to go out there and create the burn for our camp. This is their project. It's not ours. This is your camp. It's not mine. I run it. I just do a lot of background stuff. But this is the camp that you joined. You're the person that's going to be here. You're the person that's going to make this experience amazing. Without each and every one of our camp members, it doesn't work, right? It's with 35 people, we have to build a 16-foot tall pavilion, and we make it work. We have to man our door. We have to staff events, and we're really rigorous about that kind of stuff because we're very, very participatory. That's all we do is like have people come in and we interact with them, and we do bondage rides. So yay, that's exciting. But you really need diversity. I don't want to have a bunch of people who are just like, yes, sir, I'll do that for you.
So just to give a little balance, I'll go the other side, and I would go with like-mindedness. For me, it's a little different. I need people that I know are going to get out there, they're committed, they're going to work their ass off. Yeah, definitely I like somebody to be a little more the funny guy and somebody else to be a little more the this, that, and the other. But for me, if I'm running a big project and I got work to do, I look for people that have the same values and goals and game plan that I do. So I kind of tend to the other side of that, is looking for like-mindedness. And I'm just giving you that answer just so you have a little bit of contrast. You guys want to jump in on this?
So I'm going to go the middle ground. I'm going to say diversity is key with, and I think something you mentioned, like a common goal. So my co-lead and I, who's actually the founder of the camp, could not be more different in our personalities and the way we think about things. I mean, he's the visionary inspiration. Like, it's amazing. Who thinks to bring a massive plane to the playa? That is not me. I'm the practical, let's put this in a spreadsheet and put a timeline on it and work out how many people we need. But we have a common goal, and I think that theme carries across our camp of 200 people because we host parties, we do emotional baggage check, and we have a Boeing 747. We couldn't have a group of the same people doing that, and equally a diverse group without a common goal and a common vision and similar values would be chaos.
You know, I just wanted to point out a 747 is really fucking big, and if you want something a little smaller, I know there's a whole bunch of 737 Maxes available.
That's a great idea. We can't afford the software update on those. So if anyone wants to help us out, that would be awesome. I think ours might be able to fly.
Yeah, I'm like, why can't you have both? Right? I mean, it's not like one side or the other. It's fucking Burning Man, right? We have it all, right? You know, it's like you have someone that sometimes you're looking at something and you're like, I just really wish I had power right here. But at Burning Man, you go, let's get some fucking power here. You know what I mean? Like, let's get power here. You know, it's like, it's those inventive people with the goal in mind. You know, it's everybody's different, and like that's how it happens. You know what I mean? It's like it's something that, you know, you couldn't really necessarily imagine if we were all thinking the same thing. You know, they were like, we have 2 20-foot unicorns in front of our camp that spit fire. Boring, and it all just was scribbled out on a napkin, and I was like, fuck, I don't think that's gonna happen. You know what I mean? And it did, and it does time and time again, because there's someone who's got the direction and the understanding, and they brought their own crew, and I don't put the unicorns up, I make the food happen. You know, we do something different, we all bring it together as a unit, and so why can't you have both, right?
Okay, all of us are motivated by different things, and with so many people on your cruise, what are some interesting ways you get to know them and how they're best motivated? Maybe we'll start with Nikki on that one.
Yeah, great. People tend to tell us. You can also get a good response. I think there's some like surefire hits, so a bit of humor, caffeine, and I found latex and a crop work pretty well as well. Yeah, and we have similar personality types. Like, we're all brought together to build a big frickin' art project, and this is an insane plane, and we love to work. We have camp fluffers. We fluff through Build Week, and we fluff through the entire burn. So anyone doing a shift, and as a guest, you may be fluffed as well, so you'll get fed and watered by some of our fluffing crew. The usual things that motivate usual people and that you might use in the default world, so like hydrate, food, and a happy disposition.
Debbie?
Never underestimate the power of a clap on the back and a really quiet thank you, right? It's like just taking somebody aside and telling them what a good job they're doing goes a lot farther than, like a big crazy celebration. A lot of people are like motivated by just gratitude, right? It's a thing that people don't get a lot these days, especially like in the workplace. Like you go to work, you get a paycheck. You go to work, you get a paycheck. When you're at Burning Man and somebody looks at you and you're busting your ass for nothing, and all they do is tell you thank you, it's huge, right? Food, water, breaks. We value the people that work with us, and we treat them like family, and they know that. Hugs, lots and lots of hugs, lots and lots of hugs with consent. One of the great things that I feel like we have at our camp is every morning we do a breakfast. So as part of your camp dues, we do breakfast together and have a camp meeting. And then at the end of that camp meeting, we have what we call Tales of the Awesome. It's my favorite part of the day. Because sometimes you're going to laugh really hard. Somebody's going to bring back a story, and you're going to be like, what just happened? Oh, my God, that's amazing. And then another time, you're just going to, like, cry your eyes out because it was somebody finally, it was clicking for them. And it was clicking for them because they were there with you. So...
Quick show of hands. How many of you guys have ever heard of the 5 love languages? All right, a fair number of you. Excellent. So I'm kind of a big fan of that. And for those that don't know, there's a book that was written about the 5 basic ways that people either express their love or feel loved. And so anybody help me out if I forget them. There's physical touch, which is, wow, let me give you a hug, and you just did a great job. which is actually also words of affirmation. You're doing a wonderful job today, right? There is acts of service, which would be, let me get you some water. There is gifting. Look, I made a t-shirt for our camp and here's one for you. And the other one is quality time together, which is a little trickier to explain on Playa, but that's lets you and I go over here and sit in the shade and just kind of relax and talk for a minute. And so one of the things that I try and do in my life is to always get to know people and start figuring out. So I think like, gee, what am I learning from them? Do they need me to say, I really appreciate you sitting in that second row and that hat's really cool? Or does she need me to come over and give her a hug? Or does she more want me just to sit and hang out with her? So I really kind of go along the 5 love languages and figure out what it is for each person and develop a way to kind of touch them in that particular way.
Actually, I got the next question. I'll start with you. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. What questions do you use to make sure you don't choose someone who will be a bad apple? And can you tell us about a time when someone got by your screening and you had to clean up a mess?
Ouch. Yeah, about that. So clearly I've already talked about my little survey and the question thing. Yeah, sometimes people get through, usually when you get busy and you don't have a time to really pay attention to the questions. You're in a hurry, you're trying to recruit people, get them going, and or if you delegate it to somebody else who you think has the same interpretation you do of what you're looking for. So I kind of talked about some of the questions that I ask, and I really look at, for this particular project, what kinds of things are important. Is it the ability to work outside? Is it the ability to get along with other people? Is it more important that you show up on time? So I think my way through any given project and what I need, and I do that little questionnaire. But there are people that worm their way through, and I had 2 last year. Now, to my defense, I had 65, 70 people on my 3 various teams. So I only had 2 that really, really failed horribly. And how do you mitigate it? I don't know. Sometimes you get there and all of a sudden you're thinking, well, he's not exactly this, but I think he'll be okay. And they get there and they just completely bail on you. From my perspective, the best thing you can do is take that person and just send them on their way. If I've got somebody on my team that's not pulling their weight, or they're a complainer, or they're just dicking off and fucking everybody over and just not working out, I'd rather just pull them out of the mix and say, you know what, go enjoy your burn. Go. I think the Rangers say, go be part of the problem. You'll get a lot further with 4 people that know what they're doing and are here to work than you will with 20 people over there if 15 of them are just not pulling their weight. So if you find somebody that's not working out, really cut and run. Except if you only have 35 and you can't cut and run.
It hasn't happened frequently. But sometimes somebody interviews really well. Has anybody ever been a manager? And you interview somebody and they like nailed it. Yeah, you're going to be amazing. And then they get there and you're like, who are you? What? Yeah, right? They know how to answer the questions like really well, and they know how to kind of worm their way into something. And then you have to like hold their hand through the entire situation, or you have to be right there with them the whole time. They need a babysitter, and that's not really what you want, but you have to just give them a little bit of grace. Grace under pressure is a really important part of what we do at Suspended Animation. But if somebody really doesn't work out on Playa, we have a policy that requires that there's no drama. Now, we don't define drama as having a bad day. We don't define drama as having an argument in front of everybody with your partner. I've done it. It's not fun. We define drama as intentionally causing discord among your camp members. That's drama. And so if you are causing drama, and if that could look like you spreading gossip, or that could look like us asking you to do a job, and then you're like, but I don't know, building a table is really hard. I think I need a partner to do that. Not that that's a situation that ever happened before. Basically, we'll send you out with 5 gallons of water and say, go park somewhere else on Playa. You're not welcome here anymore. You need to pull your weight. You're causing more stress for everybody else than it's worth to try to mitigate that. But sometimes people sneak through, and you're not going to be perfect. We're all people, So do your best and allow yourself that grace. Allow yourself grace under pressure, giving people as much as you can.
Yeah, I think to your point, but understanding where your limitations are. So we last year had 4 issues, so 4 individuals out of 200. It's not too bad. I believe in immediate, clear, honest feedback and an opportunity to change. So if I've had to pull you aside to have a conversation with you, and I get to do that because I don't think it's fair that anyone else in the camp does that, it's not great, but there is an opportunity to make a change and to change the way you're behaving. And behavior change, they're generally sort of quite large issues that will arise if this happens. And then on a second round, if I have to call you aside, we invite you to go your own way and take to the playa yourself. Oh, yeah. We do, if you're in an RV or a tent, we supply power to you in our camp. We pull the plug on that as well. So that's part of the invitation to leave. And people are aware of that. That's not... we do have a threat to get a grader and forklift to your vehicle off our campsite as well. Luckily, we've never had to use it, but we do have a camp member who's really excited to use the forklift this year. It's not me, and she looks great driving that thing, so.
We have I feel like a lot of the expectations from your campers, I think we set off Playa. Because we party, 80% of our camp is based out of Portland, and so we do New Year's together. We have decompressions, we have recompression, we have I'm not dusty enough, I'm too dusty. We keep partying together, and so you set those expectations, and you're pretty clear with people. And from day one, there's public shaming. If you don't make your shift, you are put in front of the entire camp, and we shame you. Because that was your choice not to show, and you take your shame, and then you have double shifts, and that's it. You know what I mean? We have stuff to do, and it's dusty and hot for all of us. And if you don't do it, someone else does. And if we notice that you're lagging, dragging, and you don't strike, and you just don't come out of your tent or your RV until you're packed and ready to leave, whoever your sponsor was will kindly speak with you and let you know that you didn't cut it, and you're not going to be camping with us. We love you, and I can't wait to come to the party or see you at Burn, but you just can't camp with us. We set those expectations. Be clear, and people need that. We all can hold each other accountable. We're adults, some of us, and it's just as long as you make it clear, then it's pretty straightforward.
Great. Well, I think I've been asking a lot of questions, so I'd like to open it up to the audience to come ask some questions. We've got a mic right here in the aisle, so please come on up and ask away.
Hi, I'm Josh. I'm the leader of ID8. And one of the issues I had last year was that our build leader was phenomenal and crushing it and came out of nowhere to just make our camp happen. But he wasn't really delegating, and so we had a lot of people there who could have helped him, but he ended up getting burned out really fast. So I'm just wondering what your thoughts are about taking a rock star who tries to do everything themselves and then really making sure they have the support they need.
This is awesome. Yes. So we have our leadership and everybody in our camp knows this rule. It's the 75% rule. You should always be working at 75% of what you think you should be working at. And everybody checks in with everybody in our camp about that. So if somebody looks like they're just busting their ass, they're sweating, they're tired, they're cranky, somebody goes up to them, puts a hand on their shoulder and says, hey, 75%. And they'll go, yeah, you're right. And then the transverse of that is 25% duty. So you get put on 25% duty when you're obviously just beat. And 25% duty looks like this. You sit in the shade, maybe with a drink in your hand, whatever it takes to get you to like cool down for a little while and rebuild your energy so you don't get burnt out. I'm the worst at this. People have to tell me this all the time. Hey, 75%. I'm like, oh, okay. I just like doing it. It's so exciting. But nobody can do it all. And then we have something called air traffic control. So we have like one voice, essentially. You go to that one person, and air traffic control will tell you a small job to do. And everybody gets these small little individual jobs until everything gets done. So in the grand scheme of things, the whole thing gets built by everybody in tiny little fragments. So that one person is constantly aware of the bottlenecks that are going to happen and like, okay, so pretty soon we're going to have a bottleneck and we're going to have like 3 people working on this one thing and that thing needs to get done before we can pull shade. So, all right, everybody else go on 25% duty, take a nice big long break, go use the portas, and then we're going to be all hands on deck after that. So you have to be like 10 steps ahead all the time, but it works really well.
We have a pretty clear layout of camp, and they're all laminated, and there's information on everything that needs to be built, like a packet that's laminated with an O-ring in the corner. And then you have split up teams. Our survey crew comes out and maps the whole thing. Our build leader for just the star shades, and then our tent camping shade. Each one of them has a lead, so that underneath that they can delegate between 4 people. Putting on one person's shoulder is just going to lead to burnout, and so the kitchen crew is just focusing on getting the kitchen up and the food and the snacks for people that are doing build and water. But by drawing those very precise lines, it helps with a lot less of people standing around, for sure. And laminate all your information.
Yeah, so I think similarly, it develops out of culture, and we tend not to have single leads for anything. So every team, every project is broken down into teams. And we have multiple projects because we're building the camp, and we're building the plane, and we're putting lights up. And we're doing resourcing continuously through the day. So if you become available or your team finishes a task that they're working on, you report into resourcing. Resourcing does a check-in, and then your team is redistributed. Each team has a fluffer with them who's checking on them continuously. If you need timeout or 25%, you may even be put into the refrigerator where you're left to cool down. And yeah, so just continuously checking in with people and then not having single points of failure. So we have 2 leads for every project, and everyone on that project is able to kind of lead that team as well, so that when someone takes a break, it is not noticeable, and we rarely reward delegation. That's a big thing from the beginning, and we try and hold ourselves accountable to that as camp leads as well.
I got nothing.
Sorry, just to add, we use an incident command system, and if you haven't had a look at that, I highly recommend that. That was an awesome introduction to our camp.
Thanks, Jeff. That was a great question.
Hi, question for a young and very small camp around recruiting. You had wonderful things to say about how to pick the right people, but what do you do when you're young, you're small, you do not have the notoriety of a plane, for example, but you want to find the right people, you want to get people who are maybe new but willing to work really well?
Referrals work really well. Ask your campmates to refer people to you. You can put that call out on I don't know, Facebook, or, you know, like find some sort of organization or social media outlet that matches what you do. For us, we use like FetLife and things like that because we're a sex camp. But that doesn't work for everybody. But referrals are probably the best, because those people who come in and they're camping with their friends, they don't want to let their friends down. And their friends don't want their friends to let them down, right? So they're like, ugh, yeah, I'm going to hold you accountable and you're going to be awesome. But yeah, I think one of my favorite parts of that is referrals. Just asking our campmates, hey, you know, we love all of you. Send more people like you our way who want to go to Burning Man.
I don't know if you're aware of this, and I don't know if any of y'all are aware of this, but there's an event that takes place. I think there's 3 of them here in the Bay Area, if you're Bay Area oriented, and it's theme camp speed dating. You guys heard of that? How many people have heard? Been? All right, third half. So East Bay Burners puts on one. I think the San Francisco Burners put on one. April 4th. There you go, girlfriend, right there. April 4th. And the South Bay Burners as well. So if you're in the Bay Area, there are theme camp speed dating. And what happens is a bunch of theme camps for that area get in. Sometimes they do it at a speaker survey. Sometimes they have them set up at a table. Sometimes it's just at a bar and they're wandering around with a funny hat. And people can go and talk to them and say, you know, here's what my camp's about, here's who I'm looking for. And then folks that are looking for a place to camp are also there wandering around going, what does your camp offer? What does your camp offer? What does your camp offer? So that's a good way, if you're new and you're just really starting from scratch, that's a great way to get started.
Also wanted to mention regional burns.
Yeah. Friends and referrals, and sometimes, despite having the notoriety of a plane, sometimes some of our best new campmates are people who actually didn't want to join us. And so we've got to do a bit of convincing. So one of our camp members might, the more sane people are people who are like, no way. Camp members meet people and they say, hey, I think this person would be awesome. And they know what our camp's about. You know, if one of our core crew invites someone, I want them there.
Yeah, starting with your friend group, I mean, I try to take someone who either does not agree with me politically or like anything at all, but we've been homies for a long time. Just because I feel like life experience, as opposed to forcing down your views, and helping them with whatever that means. But by like pushing your friend circle on people that really wouldn't burn, to get them out there half naked in the desert, you know, is always gonna tweak a little bit of something. Maybe it might not change their vote, but it might, help out. So I don't know. I always like to push my friends who would never go to burn and try to get them to come work with me. So I would push for that. And then regional. Go to regional burn.
Where did you look it up?
What does your camp do? I think because in part because we're new and young.
Do you want to speak on the mic because of the live stream, please?
Yeah, we want to hear about your camp.
Yeah.
We're still very much.
Yeah, tell us about your camp and why we should join.
We peddle custom adventures. Basically, we want to bring people together, get them to share what makes them excited about their burn, about their lives, and kind of collectively generate ideas of how they could have more of those adventures at the burn.
What is your camp's name?
New Desert Outpost.
New Desert Outpost for adventures of a lifetime.
Just a reminder, if you're on the live stream, please submit any questions and we'll get someone to read them.
I just wanted to jump in on Lisa's comment earlier that we're doing theme camp speed dating here in San Francisco on April 4th. If you're on the San Francisco Burners thing, there's a link to sign up to be part of it. It's another Google form.
Swipe right.
It is a Facebook event, so.
Hi, I'm Crow Bob, leader of a small theme camp, 25 people or so. Do you have somebody that is sort of the lead for, how do I say it, emotional stress for your campers or something like that? Because we had a situation last year where somebody was just beyond having just a bad day. So your thoughts on that?
I'm one of the emotional buffers for our camp. I keep energy like not only just up, but like if you're down, let's find out why. And maybe just listening when people are down, you know? So being a part of that is just my secret to when there's emotional distress in camp. For me is an open ear and an open heart, as opposed to it's a lot of listening as opposed to trying to actually solve any of the problem or anything first. I just sit and listen a lot. And that most of the time, and water, always start with water. But most of the time, it's just people just need to be listened to a lot. And that's cool. And I've happily taken on that responsibility in camp. But we have like 2 other as well. So.
And I think there are varying degrees of that. So certainly listening, and as a starting point, depending on where people are at, a temperature test. So if they're at a 10, like raging, are they hydrated? When last did they eat? When last did they sleep? When last have they cleaned? And if it's been 12 hours, then before we have a conversation, those issues need to be addressed, and we help them to address those. If it's more serious, we take them or escort them to Zendo, but normally the hydration, the sleep, and the food solve a lot of the issues. And then the more minor things are conversational. And we do have 2 medics and a psychologist in our camp as well, so we're really lucky for that. And we're able to support other camps to a degree, so you can come and find us on Playa.
Just in case y'all don't know, we have this whole group called the Rangers. Yay, Rangers. And they have green dots. If the easiest thing to do is really date one and then have them in your camp with you, problem solved.
Yeah, there's, I think, a certain degree to which you can be there for your camp members, but if it's really bad, take them to medical. I mean, that's the safest thing for somebody who's in extreme emotional distress. But honestly, like, I'm that person for my camp. Everybody comes to me with their emotional stuff.
This person just kind of like refused any kind of care and was just not being belligerent, but obviously needed some care, but didn't want any kind of care. So we were at a loss.
Rangers. Yeah.
Hi, good morning. I'm Nicole. I'm with the doc team, helping with the live stream. So before I ask the question, I do want to let folks know we've got people here with us from Belgium, Luxembourg, Portugal, Key West, Florida, France, Denmark, Alberta, Canada, Denver and Ridgeway, Colorado, also South Africa and Texas. So, yeah. And we have a question from Melanie McClenahan. Her question is, what Burning Man principle do you find the most important and how do you use it in your camp? Conversely, what is your most challenging principle?
I gotta think on that. Radical inclusion is really important to us. We're all about having as many people as possible. Now, there's a limit to that, of course, because we're 18 and over. So, but diversity, ability, disability, all of that is kind of irrelevant to us. We're like, hey, let's do it. Yeah, you're unique and you're a wonderful human. Bring it on. I think it's also the most difficult for us because we're an 18 and over camp. It's you know, we've had people with like family members, you know, like small children ask to be able to camp like as a sister camp or camp with us, and we have to make that hard decision of, I don't know that our camp would be comfortable with that just because of what we do. So I think it's both like our favorite and also the hardest one for us.
I try not to focus on the principles as a singular thing or separate, more as a total, and as opposed to them being up as a principle or something that we have to choose one or the other. I like to turn it back on its head and focus on them as a question. Like, am I being radically self-reliant? Are we gifting properly? Is this decommodification? So as opposed to it being like one is separate or harder or different, more of looking at it inward and focusing on it more as a question and as a whole. So I don't know if that answers that.
Dazzle, anything to add?
Not much.
Okay.
Okay, I have another one. This one's from Suzanne Eris. She asks, how have you made your finances transparent to camp members? Expenses and fees, money flow intentionally available, shown to camp members. Oh, okay. I guess our expenses and fees, is the flow intentionally available, shown to camp members?
So I'll take this one and say, hi, Super Suze. She's a friend of mine, so just wanted to say hi. And she knows me well enough to know all my stuff's on Google Docs, and it's all available, and you can go look at it, but I'll let the rest of y'all talk.
Spreadsheets. We actually are very, very open with our financials. We basically do spreadsheets and we send them out to people after the burns, before the next burn, whenever we get around to finalizing them, which can take some time for us. Yeah, we're very open. We just openly share it with our crew. We go over it in camp meetings, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, same. Openly published budgets, go through them in camp meetings continuously with updates continuously.
Yeah, the same. We actually just applied to become a nonprofit, so it's pretty completely open because we're trying to take, we actually are the Department of Joy, so the DOJ, lots of paperwork. And so all of our, it's all open, so just.
Thank you.
And we are a nonprofit, yeah, so.
Hello, I'm Saline. I'm the camp medic for Legends of the Hidden Playa. Hello, I'm Saline. I'm the camp medic for Legends of the Hidden Playa. We're a game show themed obstacle course camp, and I'd like to know what skills and tools you use to sort of motivate or light a fire under the butts of the needy and greedy campers, some that just don't seem to make it to 75% and who need more time at 25% than realistically they should.
Sometimes for my own sanity, I have to walk away. But in all seriousness, especially for strike, this is a thing that we do. If you're not putting in your fair share of work, we'll shame you. We'll ask you to go up. We'll have a camp meeting, and we'll ask you to stand in front of everybody and tell them why you're not participating. Because without everybody participating, it just doesn't work. Participation is a huge part of Burning Man, right? So that's a great way to light a fire under people. Or having a one-on-one with somebody. I've definitely made somebody cry accidentally, just saying, hey, you missed your shift. Like, what was that about? And I probably should have walked away because I was real upset about it. I was like, what? This person didn't show up, and then I had to run around and do all this crazy stuff to find somebody to cover the shift. And they felt so bad. Just me looking at them and being like, gosh, I'm just disappointed. Such a mom.
I do a small thing that really may not help like in the moment, but builds the idea around it, which is after we get back, I do a debrief, once again, Google Doc questionnaire, where it asks, who would you most like to work with next year? Which gets people thinking about, ooh, I want to be the one that wins the category for everybody wants to work with me next year. So for me, it's more a matter of the things that I do year after year to start building that bench strength and knowing that people are going to be evaluated by their peers. And I kind of mentioned that up front, like, when we get back, we'll all talk about, these kinds of things. So I don't want it to be too much of a surprise. But I do, over year after year, people get to give feedback on the rest of the group. So that helps bring some attention to people who are watching.
So we have time for about one more question, maybe two.
Hi, I'm Buddha with BlackRock French Quarter. Thank you all for being up here. I have a question from Ryan with Camp Mosaic, who's actually watching the live stream and texted me. He wants to know, during the off season, if you're not physically close to your campers, what are you doing to keep them engaged and in the conversation? Because we have a lot of satellite sort of campers that aren't core. So what do you do during the off season to make sure that they're there so that when it is on season, they're activated?
We operate a Slack channel. Works really well. We can send each other pictures. We can have conversations. We all crack jokes at each other. It keeps everything going. We also just kind of love each other so much. We text each other. We have events, kind of fundraising events throughout, the year. Sometimes once, sometimes twice, depending on how crazy it is. But that really helps people stay engaged. And basically we start recruiting again in January. So we have a few weeks off, and then we're like, okay, everybody, if you want to go with us this year, now's the time to let us know.
Yeah, similarly, we have Facebook groups. We have a WhatsApp channel that we're on continuously. We have regular events. So our camp is primarily distributed between San Francisco, New York, LA, and then we have a lot of satellite members. We use Zoom a lot, and from January, we have one camp meeting with everyone on Zoom a month, and then we do weekly leadership meetings. So, yeah, every Thursday we're on calls.
Oh, I have an answer for the last question about motivating the people that aren't hitting 75%. As leaders, as a theme camp organizer, we set the standard of excellence. So people are going to pull energy off of your attitude. And, if you're leading like a dick, people aren't going to work as hard. You know what I mean? So if you're leading with cleanliness, organization, a good attitude, a smile, people pull that energy from you. And sometimes it's less about pointing the finger and focusing inward and focusing on how you can radiate energy by just being more exuberant, I guess.
I have a question here from Caroline Dawes. She asks, as leaders, what techniques do you utilize to maintain your own boundaries, not be taken advantage of, walked on, and yet still remain open enough that your campers can come up to you with problems?
Ketamine. I'm joking.
Radical self-care, know your limits, know yourself, and be self-aware enough to really hold yourself accountable and have a core team of 5 people around you who can call you on your shit. I think that's essential. If you're not taking care of yourself, you're going to suck at taking care of other people. And I think this is an opportunity at Burning Man as well to lead not with ego, but particularly to lead because people have entrusted you to lead them. They want to get their project done, and I see myself more as an enabler. So consider it a work of honor to be able to give people the opportunity to do what they really want to do. I don't have any particular talents, but I have 200 people who are unbelievably talented, and it's an honor to give them space to do that. And taking care of myself and setting my own boundaries enables me to do that.
That's why there's 3 imperators in our camp. We kind of rotate. If somebody's having a bad time, we very openly and honestly just to say, I need a month, or I need a week, or you know what, I'm going to be offline for the rest of the day, or whatever. We support each other and make sure that we do regular check-ins. How are you doing? It's a very concerned, how are you doing? We ask each other all the time, and it's just really important to us. Just like you said, radical self-care, super important.
And celebrate that.
Yes.
People say, I'm taking time off. You're like, yeah, take time off. Sorry, so celebrate people for like self-identifying the need to rest.
I got nothing. I'm the person that keeps doing more and more and more. And if anything, I have my campmates coming to me and telling me, like, why don't you go sit over there and we'll do this for you? So I kind of lead by example in a bad way of taking on it way too much. But yeah, and I don't break very often. I don't know why. It's kind of weird. Did I mention I date a green dot? I think yeah. He helps a lot. So no, I'm the worst at that.
Well, again, I really want to thank you for coming out this morning, and especially our panelists who provided us some great insights and answers. Hope you all learned a lot from them.